Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we are here, albeit a little bit late. Normally, we go 7 p.m., but I was putting the finishing touches to my horoscopes, which I've just posted on Substack. So we're going to go over that in this Aquarian season. And look who we have here. Look who it is. Oh, yes. It's the astrological weather cat, Peaches, joining us here at night while Jasper chows down. So I'm going to dawdle and delay here for a while and let people show up. You know how we do that best? We go into the chat and we do a little meet and greet. So let's see who we have amongst us. Let's see. All right, starting at the beginning, we've got, of course, DJ MC, aka Michael Sisternino. Tondar is here. How about that? Good to see Tondar. Charlie. Hey, Phoenix, this Bill's defeat hit hard. Different, curse, fixed, or corrupt. I'm going to go with corrupt. There was something really fucking shady about these games this weekend. Let me go off on a little bit of a pro football, organized betting, gambling, sports conspiracy. So let's talk about the Bills and the Broncos. Okay. In typical Bills, Josh, the Super Gemini Allen fashion, they managed to come back and not only make it a game, but put the game into overtime. And they decided that they wanted to kick the ball, which meant that they just had to stop Denver. And if they stopped Denver, then they would get the ball back. And all they had to do was kick a field goal. And everything was working according to plan. They were driving down the field, and they were looking fairly good, right? And you got to remember, these guys have been playing 60 minutes of hardcore grind football. And I didn't really watch the game until this point. This is when I came into the game. I decided I'm going to turn it on and see what's happening. So the first thing I noticed was the pass to Brandon Cooks. Now, for those of you who didn't follow the game, Josh Allen, who's the quarterback for the Bills, threw a beautiful pass to Brandon Cooks about 35 yards down the field, thus ensuring the Bills having a very good shot at kicking a field goal and winning the game, and thus moving on. Now, when I saw the play in real time, I thought to myself, that's a catch. That's a catch. And what happened is that he caught the ball and he hit the ground. And as he hit the ground, and you're supposed to be down by contact, the defender, I got to give credit to the defender, stayed with the play. And as Brandon Cooks, who'd fallen on his back, jumping up in the air, going all out for this ball, he catches it down. Remember, down by contact, the ground creates down. You're down. But the defender stays with it and wrestles the ball out of Brandon Cooks' hands and then comes up with it. Now, some people say, well, that play could go either way. I don't believe so. I believe he caught the damn ball. And that because the defender was tenacious, that he pulled the ball away and then they got possession of the ball, thus canceling out Buffalo's chance of kicking a field goal and advancing, going on. Okay, so now it's on Buffalo. And they have to they've got to stop the Bills, get the ball back, and score again. And it looks like they're doing just that. And Guess what happens? There's a pass downfield, and I think the defender and the wide receiver were both going after the ball. Now, Tre'Davious White, who plays for Buffalo, is considered one of the best cornerbacks in pro football. He's almost a perennial all-pro. And there's usually this kind of unwritten rule where great players don't get flagged. They've kind of earned some status, right? And there is not always. We'll talk about the New Orleans Saints here in just a second. There's always this sense that you don't throw a flag at the end of a game or overtime to somehow fix the outcome. Now, there's the other side of the coin where a penalty is just incredibly egregious, in which case a flag should be thrown. I'm going to get back to that point in a second. Let's return to this game. There's no way in my world that is pass interference on that first play. They're both going for the ball. I don't really see it. And when I saw that, it's like, holy shit, the fix is in here. Now, you also have to remember that this is pretty far, like taking a field goal. It's easier in Denver because the altitude is so high, but the weather was not great. So they needed more yardage to get closer because they were still, some distance away from doing damage with a field goal. I think it's the very next play. Bo Nix throws it on the same corner, Tre'Davious White, and there's some hand fighting for the ball. Second flag. That's two flags. Two flags for pass interference in overtime. It's hardly ever called. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? First, you have the Brandon Cooks call, then you have these two other. These three calls swung the game in a radical fashion in the Broncos' favor. And then 2 plays later, they line it up, they kick the field goal, and then they win. Now, what's really weird is this whole thing with Bo Nix, who is the quarterback for the Broncos. Now, I didn't see it. I saw the plays, but I didn't really see, and I have to go back. I need to watch it again. Probably should have, but I didn't see Bo Nix limp off the field. This is a guy with a broken ankle, and apparently he broke it on the second to last play. And you say, well, that happens all the time. Not really. Not really. And I was on this website today. I don't know whether it's true or not, but at the end of the game, a black SUV rolled up to the stadium, and that's what Bo Nix supposedly got into. And he's not going to have his surgery for another 3 days, and it's going to be in another state. Why wouldn't you just stay in Denver and just get the surgery done tomorrow or the next day? Something really weird went down in that game. Now, if you go back to the playoff game between the Bills and the Saints, the Saints and the Rams. Now, you guys probably remember this play. It was the year that the Rams went to the Super Bowl and won. Or did they just go to the Super Bowl and they lost to I think it was the year they went to the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Patriots. And they played the Saints in the playoffs. And there was a play, and Sean Payton, who was the coach for the Saints, is now the coach for the Broncos. And there was a play where it was a clear pass interference on the Rams defender. He just knocked the shit out of the guy, before he even caught the ball. And that was the end of that game. And the Saints were driving and they were going to win the game. And Sean Payton was the coach of that team. Now, Sean Payton is an odd character. Keeping it in astrological territory, Sean Payton is a Capricorn. And look, I'm going to say something about Capricorns. And if you're a Capricorn, please do not misconstrue this as me hating your sign. I don't hate any sign. But Capricorns, their goal is to get to the top of the freaking pyramid, to the top of the mountain. That's their goal, right? So at times, Capricorn can display a sense of ruthlessness. It's just the nature of the beast. Richard Nixon was a Capricorn, and I like Richard Nixon. I probably like Richard Nixon more than most Americans because he was really smart, interesting, capable. He was very capable. He might have been our last true president, if I'm being completely honest. No, I wouldn't put Reagan in that category. Sean Payton is a Capricorn, and there's something kind of dark about Sean Payton. Let me just tell you some of the things. Back in 2011 and 2012, Sean Payton was the coach of the New Orleans Saints, had a lot of really, really good teams. Drew Brees was his quarterback. So you had a Capricorn coach and a Capricorn quarterback. Perfect. They were in synchrony with one another. Perfect blend. And Drew Brees won a shit ton of games, and they did win a Super Bowl against the Indianapolis Colts. And even that was kind of under strange circumstances. Anyway, the Saints had this thing called Bounty Gate. And the assistant, the defensive coach for the New Orleans Saints supposedly put out this call that if you get this player out of the game, you're going to get $1,000 bonus or something like that. First of all, I don't think that's uncommon in pro football. I think they target guys. I'm surprised that the 49ers didn't target Sam Darnold's oblique more the last night in that debacle. But guys get targeted. So Sean Payton gets swept up in this Bounty Gate thing, and he has to sit out for an entire season. Like, tell me a coach that sits out for a whole fucking season and what that does to that guy's mindset. The other thing that's weird about Sean Payton is that he also got busted for having a bunch of counterfeit scripts for pain pills. Now, I don't know if he was the guy that was the recipient of those pain pills, whether he was distributing them. I don't know. But he got busted for that. And I think he got like a fine. It was just weird. He's got this weird background. And while he was the coach of the Saints, he also went through a pretty significant divorce. So all these things are very human things, right? And then Sean Payton has to sit out a couple of years. And then he winds up, he doesn't have to, but he does. And he winds up becoming the coach of the Broncos. And he's a very good coach, but there's always been this weird darkness that has kind of followed Sean Payton. And I remember one time when he was coaching the Saints, and he was playing against Bill Parcells, who I think was the coach of the Cowboys at the time. And Sean Payton just absolutely like murdered Bill Parcells and the Cowboys. And it was like he was killing his father, right, in a metaphoric sense. And I was like, "Ooh, man, this guy is not just beating Bill Parcells; he's taking him to the woodshed." And Parcells was not. I'm not sure he was the same, or the Cowboys were the same after that defeat. And so it was like Sean Payton like took his scalp. There's something very dark about Sean Payton. That game feels like there's something going on. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Vegas won. Vegas covered. Vegas covered in that game. So if you have conspiratorial antennae in that the NFL is rigged and fixed, this is a game that people are going to be studying for a long time. And almost every sportscaster who is employed either at a high level or even a medium level, they'll always say, well, I don't believe in conspiracies. I don't believe that the game is rigged or fixed. Let's see how many of those are sharing that sentiment come Monday, when everybody starts to talk about it. We get into the ESPN news cycle, right? So how does this impact astrology? Well, we're in Capricorn season. Sean Payton's a Capricorn coach. You could think of Denver in some ways as a Capricorn city, although I don't think it is. I have to go in and look at the astrology in Denver. But this idea, it's also, the Broncos and the year of the fire horse, right? Take that into account. But the Denver is, kind of this plateau. It's pretty high up there, and that's what goats do. They scale heights, right? So in that regard, Denver's kind of a goat city. It exists at an altitude higher than other places, even though I think we could throw the Bronco in there, another spirit animal. But this game is going to be looked at again and again and again. And what's interesting is that the NFL has employed ex-referees that are able to come in to a broadcast. Now, they may not be there in the studio with the announcers, but the announcers have the ability to patch these ex-referees in and ask them about the calls. And what that does is it allows the referees to come in with the voice of reason, right? The ex-referees come in with the voice of reason, and they're able to sell the calls. That's what happened with the so-called fumble of Brandon Cooks. But if you go back and you look at it, it clearly he's down by contact with the ground. He is. And it's just due to the tenacity of the defender and Brandon Cooks being kind of rolled over that the defender was able to get the ball that should have been Buffalo ball. And I'm not a Bills fan, but in real time, it happened so quickly. Now, they could have gone back and watched it. I don't think they did. They didn't watch it. They were just like, fumble, Denver ball. That was it. Something just does not smell right in this game. Doesn't smell right at all. Now, could Sean Payton is he being paid back to keep his mouth shut for what happened in the playoff game against his Saints when there was an obvious pass interference call that allowed the LA Rams to advance? Question mark. I'm just telling you, there's something dark about Sean Payton. And, when there's darkness, then there is this, people will talk. People will speak when there's darkness. When things are clearly illuminated, then there's less chance for chatter, right? I'm just telling you, there's something weird. There's something weird about the whole Bo Nix thing and how all of a sudden he's got a broken ankle. And if I didn't watch the end of the game, but I'm assuming that the Patriots beat the Texans. I watched like maybe 10 minutes of it from the third to the fourth quarter. And if that's the case, you're looking at a Patriots-Broncos final without the Broncos having a legit – Jarrett Stidham is their quarterback now. And he's okay, but they have to put in a whole new offense for him. He's not the same player that Bo Nix is. They're going to run different plays with Jason Stidham, and they have a week. And the Patriots now are slated to be the AFC champion rolling into the Super Bowl. Now, let me just talk about that for a second. because there's a couple things that are associated with the Patriots. The Patriots really show up for the first time in 1999. All right, 1999, 2000, 2001. That's when they show up. And that's when the Patriots go on this major run. It is synonymous. The Patriots run is synonymous with the rise of the neocons and this idea that America can go in, can initiate these regime changes militarily, Afghanistan and Iraq, and be in the right about the whole thing, right? The new American hegemony, which is based on payback, the payback of 9/11. The Patriots are a part of that story for years. It's like we're going to wage war internationally, and there's this whole kind of symbolic patriotic theme in the background. As the Patriots, if they don't win, they're almost always in the hunt for the Super Bowl, for the Vince Lombardi Trophy. And the quarterback of those teams is Tom Brady. Now, I don't know if he still has this moniker, but for a long time, Tom Brady was known as Captain America. And, you know, who would be a more patriotic symbol for this period in American history? And Tom Brady does not come from the elites. Tom Brady comes from the so-called working class. He grew up in the Bay Area in California, went to a Catholic school, was drafted in the, I believe, the 6th round by the New England Patriots. You know, he was kind of an everyman, good quarterback, split time with another quarterback at Michigan. And he comes in and he takes over for Drew Bledsoe. And I believe he's a rookie, or it's his second season. But he comes in and he takes the Patriots to the freaking Super Bowl. To the Super Bowl. And they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, which is another game that I thought was thrown, by the way. But it starts this roll. So here we go again. We have the Patriots, and we just came out of Venezuela. We might be staring down the barrel of Iran, and it looks like, you know, America is getting ready to crank up the war machine again. Well, let's make the Patriots great again. Mappa. And we cannot talk about the Patriots without talking about their owner, Bob Kraft. Bob Kraft is almost solely responsible for any ad that you see on television that tells you how difficult it is for Jewish people to live in America, that they are on the forefront of being treated poorly by racist bigots and, more importantly, anti-Semites. Bob Kraft has been funding these infomercials. And so this whole idea, I don't know if you've seen the TV spots, but if you stand with Israel, you put a blue square or blue rectangle or whatever next to your name. And that's going to be on Twitter, right? They had the black one for Black Lives Matter. They had pink ones. This one is the powder blue square. This is all coming out of Bob Kraft. Bob Kraft is deeply embedded in the American-Israeli narrative. I mean, he's got shit named after him in Israel, right? So, you know, you add that up and it's like, oh, well, how can we talk about Israel and how can we talk about anti-Semitism, and how can we control how that discussion goes? Oh, I know how we can do that. Let's get the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And let's get 2 weeks of Bob Kraft talking about how important it is for Americans to monitor their speech as it relates to a particular group, whether it's Israel, whether it's Zionism, whether it's Jewish power under the cloak of anti-Semitism. I guarantee you we'll get 2 weeks worth of that, along with anything else that's related to the Super Bowl. So I have to ask the question here. Who do you think is going to win this game? The Denver Broncos or the New England Patriots? Sitting here right now, I put my money on the Patriots, especially since Denver's quarterback is out and the Patriots seem to be rolling. They seem to be rolling. They are a fast turnaround here with Mike Vrabel at the helm and Drake May at quarterback with a no-name defense. And it's Tom Brady and the New England Patriots and American hegemony and regime change all over again. If you ask me, that's what I think is going on here. And in some ways, it doesn't matter who comes out of the NFC. Doesn't matter. It could be LA, it could be Chicago. It doesn't matter. Now, some people have asked me, do I think that Josh Allen threw that game? I don't know. I don't think so, because if Brandon Cooks catches that pass and they rule a completion, there are about 2 or 3 ways of play from a chip shot field goal, and that game is over. Now, Josh Allen he'll throw a couple of picks in a game. He'll make some blunders, but he is so physically gifted. There are maybe 3 guys in the league that have an arm the equivalent of Josh Allen's. One is Caleb Williams, and the other is Matt Stafford. Those 3 guys have the best arms in the NFL. They can make any throw in the field. They can laser point it 50 yards down the field. No arc, just throw it on a dime. Not every quarterback can do that. So he has tremendous physical skills. He's a great athlete. He can run. He's fearless. He's able to endure physical pain and endurance because he takes a lot of hits. He's a really interesting, solid, and gifted quarterback. But he does fuck up every now and then. He does make bad throws. So for him to make some bad throws during the playoff game isn't off script for Josh Allen. That's just my 2 cents. He's kind of wired that way. You get significant highs with Josh Allen, and every now and then he'll give you some lows, right? But he's a Gemini, so it all works out in the mix. Let me just out of curiosity, let me see what that Rams game is. Let's see, 17-10 Rams in the fourth quarter. 8:50 left. So this is still anybody's game. And the Patriots pretty much boot stomped the Texans. It's a bad matchup for the Texans who play indoors. Okay. So let me go back through these comments here. We're starting to line up. We got 170 people. Let's see. Nicotino. Trinity Productions. Can't believe the Bills lost and then find out that Bo Nix broke his ankle on second to last play and is out. Crazy. Poor Josh Allen. Thought it was his year, but it's going to be Hawks. I don't know. I think the Rams can beat the Hawks, by the way. I think they can beat the Hawks. But it's interesting. Bo Nix is a Scorpio, and Aquarius rules the ankles. So it's kind of a foreshadowing of the season of Aquarius. Cooks made the catch. Charlie, I agree with you. I think he made the catch. I'm going to have to listen. Darling, hope you come back. According to the colors of the Super Bowl, it should have been Lions versus Chargers. I think what happened, Tom Dar, is that people got hip to that. And they were like, oh, we can figure this out. You Dragon 2002 is here. Jam Chloe. What's up, Jam Chloe? Aaron's here. There's Rafi. What's up, Rafi? Good to see you. Kelly Zat. Hi, Kelly Zat. Misbehaving too. join us. There's Marcus. M.A. Agava. Where's intern Zeus? Intern Zeus is on a remote right now. Intern Zeus is in San Antonio, and where he might be on thin ice down in San Antonio. This is a much better environment for intern Zeus. It's snowing here tonight. Snuggled in bed already. Well, your Patriots won, so you can go to sleep in the snuggly bed with me in a nice warm hot cup of cocoa. Diane or Daniel? No, it's Diane. It's Diane. I always get confused on your name. I'm sorry, Diane. L.K. Lyris. My bad. Let's just put your name up there to show everybody that I'm not dyslexic. There you go. Andrea Garland's here. Good to see you, Andrea. 99 Skyrocks. Hadidas 99. We got a couple 99s right back. Here's Amy. We got a new moon. That's right. Peter Bione. Peter. We will catch up. I promise. Beth Berry's in the house. There's our Queen Lynette Jardine. Bad Maxine. Scribe of Persia watching live. Glad you're here with us. Let's see. Who else do we have here? California Contrarian. What's up? What's happening? Meow Meow's here. Throwing flags at the end is what made Patrick Mahomes the greatest player of this decade. The Kansas City Chiefs lived off of the largesse of the refs in the NFL, mostly at the expense of my 49ers. Beth Berry says, why haven't I been feeling that questionable calls have happened before to the Bills? Yes, like when they played the Chiefs. Poor Josh, absolute crushed. I like Josh Allen, by the way. He's a San Jose boy. That's my roots, San Jose. It's past midday Monday here. Lots of water. Well, we're coming up on Aquarius season, Haridas. I left the earliest episode of 2000 This Old House to come here, of course. About a 1920s last year. Oh, that's cool. I've got some house-related horoscope news for Scorpios, by the way, which we'll get into. The wiring, yeah. That's from another fucking century, almost. Long-time listener, first-time caller. All right, GMC. GM McCarthy, good to have you. Thanks for being here. Can you say rigged feels? You know, this is sports is one of those pendulums, right? It swings, and when it swings and people find out that it's rigged, it's like, okay, now we're leaning into reality, right? Because for people, sports is like the last domain where they can just like not give a shit about reality. We're going to check out, you know, watch competition, have to suffer through the fucking commercials. And then that's what we'll do. It'll supplant reality for a few moments in time. But once this whole idea of things being rigged in sports hits, it has a domino effect with reality. And it's like, oh shit, how much of this world is wired and rigged? There's a big college betting scandal going on right now as well. They're trying to keep under the radar. This is about 20 players, and they're players from small and mid-major schools that were part of a network, right? There's a real problem with betting in sports. When it happened, I just thought this is a bad idea. This is because when it was in Las Vegas, you had to fucking go to Las Vegas. You had to get on a plane or get in a car and travel to a place where you could make bets, right? Or you could bet with somebody locally, and that could be could have serious life consequences if you didn't pay up your bet, right? So either way, there is a sacrifice involved in order to gamble. Now it's just it's too easy. It's too easy, and it's everywhere, right? They're like fucking tobacco commercials and beer commercials, or there was a time when hard liquor and cigarette commercials, they still don't have cigarette commercials, But there was a time where they took hard liquor commercials off of television, and it was Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? Their lobby was so freaking powerful that they got hard liquor ads removed from TV because what they said was that it encouraged young people to drink, right? It was the same thing with cigarettes, right? That you were not only getting the consumers of tobacco, but they were grooming young people for these products. Well, it's the same thing with gambling. And gambling is a vice just like those other two. So, we're bombarded with legal gambling. And if you listen to any sportscast or sports podcast, 90% of them are sponsored by one, if not more, of the tote services, whether it's FanDuel or, whatever, right? So it's a problem. It's a serious problem in our culture. NFL's having regrets letting the Broncos win. I think it might be a payback, Kevin. I think it might be a payback. Play Monopoly with a Cappy, you'll know. Do they hide? They hide shit, right? They must hide shit. Oh, but yes, Anki, our Aquarian dog, just qualified on his third afternoon leg toward his novice obedience title. So he is a new AKC companion dog. How about that? Shout out for Anki. Scribe of Persia, multi-billion-dollar industry like the NFL with billions more gambling money infused into the sport. There are no outcomes that are not nudged or adjusted to desirable outcomes. I agree. Let's throw that up there, Scribe of Persia. I totally agree with that. That was a great Super Bowl. Caught the Colts snapping. It was a really feel-good Super Bowl. I have to admit, I didn't mind the Colts losing. Peyton Manning always bugged me. So why did Nixon trust Kissinger? Nixon had to take Kissinger. That was an arrangement that was made by the Rockefellers. So he had to take him. Anybody who's ever talked to Henry Kissinger knew that you were talking with somebody who was also incredibly bright and understood the global chessboard. So Nixon, being a Capricorn, had to chew that bitter root and bring Kissinger into the fold. That was part of the agreement for him to continue to win his presidential quest back in 1968. He had to take on Henry Kissinger, who I believe was already a member of Johnson's cabinet, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. Let's see, you got Liddy Lou in the house. I might just be jaded because I'm a Chargers fan and Packers fan. Teams are no stranger in many ways to choke games away. Poor Chargers. Poor Chargers. At least the Packers have won a Super Bowl. Football, how long? Oh, hang in there. It's more than just football. We're talking about astrology here as well. Yeah, poor Titletown, their 4 Super Bowl victories. Right. Happy Cap New Moon, Sedona Angel. Sedona Angel in the house. I used to love the Saints back when it was Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham. Peyton is sus. There's something dark about Sean Payton. If you live in New Orleans, you probably know what I'm talking about. Patriots did win. Thanks, Sun Tzu. Nothing unusual about the Texans, just inconsistent. I believe professional sports are rigged. We're in agreement here. Texas, you're after Malik Willis in free agency. Maybe. He'll be popular. Drew got injured when Brady was put in. That's right. He did. He got hurt. He got hurt by, I believe, Jonathan Vilma, who is a corner linebacker for the New York Jets. Janine's in the house. Hi, Janine. Is there left eternal? I can't believe Mike Martz found a way to lose a Super Bowl. Yeah, it's called not running the ball. They had Marshall Faulk and they didn't run the ball. How about a little political comment here? Peter Bayonne, the current administration is hell-bent on overextending our military order in order to collapse America. I actually talk about that in the horoscopes, which we'll get into. Let's see. Don't forget how Bob Kraft and his happy ending massages were swept under the... Yeah, Bob Kraft went down to a massage parlor down in Florida and got busted in a sting where these women, what happens with these women, they come over from China, they'll come over from China, they'll come over from Taiwan, they'll come over from Cambodia, usually from China. And what happens is that their passports are taken and they're forced to work in these massage parlors and do the old happy ending. And that's exactly what happened to Bob Kraft. Nothing ever happened to him. Swept under the rug. Rules for thou and rules for thee. Rules for thou and rules for thee. They're not the same rules. Thankful for you, Robert. Always looking forward to your insight on life shares with us. I do my best. Sometimes I do my best to make lemonade out of lemons. Let's see. Who else do we have here? It says entertainment purposes on the back of the ticket, just like the system. Are you not entertained? Georgia Ruth is with us. Hi, Georgia Ruth. Lisa, healing with nature. Hi, meeting grateful for our lunch break conversation with David at the bridge in Dallas. That was a fun event. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed meeting everybody. And I really enjoyed our dinners where we all got together and ate at the same table. It was really beautiful. Steve's here, Thor at the door. We got back-to-back Steves. Look at that. Who else do we have? Green-Eyed Crow is here. How Green-Eyed Crow? Let's see. We're getting caught up. Christine Mose, dope, gambling, and porn everywhere because they love us so much. I love you. I love you, Christine. That is great because they love us so much. Let's see. I saw a lady yelling at her partner in my apartment parking lot last weekend because he gambled their rent money. She was just about in tears. I'm telling you, man, gambling is, I don't gamble like that. I may go to a casino every now and then if I'm in town and there happens to be a casino, and I usually save those trips for like Las Vegas or Reno. I don't trust Indian casinos. That's just me. But I don't gamble online. The last gambling event that I did was the Tyson Fury fight, where he beat Deontay Wilder, and I knew he was going to win. So I won money on that. I went out a winner. I like going out a winner. I haven't bet since then. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Is there a word for being discriminated against because of your astro sign? Was at a jam last Monday, got off stage, woman starts chatting me up, finds out I'm a Leo, and instantly backed off. Wow. You were, yeah. It's like the anti-Semitism of astrology. What would we call that? It's definitely people have biases, and usually what happens is that they get into a relationship with a particular sign, and it's usually their Achilles heel, and then that's it. They're done. They're done with that sign. I'm never going to have fill in the blank in my life again. So unfortunately, Peter, you were a victim of that person's dating history. And it just so happens that their dating history encompassed probably a couple of bad Leos. I wouldn't take it personally. She probably did you a favor. Desley Logham, you're here. Hell, you're still tuning in. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Rules for thee and not for me. Yes, absolutely. Rules for thou and not for me or thee. Let's see. Who else do we have here? I agree. I don't trust Indian gambling either. Their blackjack decks have too many 6s, 7s, and 8s. Yeah, I just like every time I've ever gone to an Indian casino, it's like traveling to a black hole in the universe. Bell Kell, what's going on, Bell Kell? Astroicism. I kind of like this. Astro-racism. I think we should drop the R, just call it astroicism. Can we call it astroicism? What do you think? Where people are bigoted towards other signs, sign shaming, astrophobia. Oh, this is good. Somebody had a good one. We call that God's protection. I like that, Lisa. We call that God's great. I like that. Love a Scorpio. I like astroicism. I like that. Sign shaming. I love a Scorpio. People either love Scorpios or sign shame like crazy. Yeah, Scorpios have the worst time. They really do. And I got to say, I love the Scorpios. I'm okay with Scorpio. I love all signs. I love all signs. You're all fucking weird and you're all beautiful. And that's how it is. You know, you're all weird and beautiful. And sometimes the weird stuff gets a little too close, and sometimes beautiful stuff makes us yearn for more of you in our lives. Right? Astrocism. I think it's astrocism. I think we found it. Sinophobia, that's not bad. That's not bad. I like healthy men, laugh aloud, whatever sign. There we go. Proud to be weird. Yeah. We're proud to be weird. Okay. Hope Easton, resident Libra, checking in. Hello, Hope. Good to see you. Love a Scorpio. I've been called a lot of things. I dig Scorpios. I get Scorpios. I am Scorpio rising, so I do get the skeleton key to Scorpios. I've never been afraid of Scorpios or freaked out by them. Sinophobia. I think sinophobia might take it. Sinophobia with its attendant malady, astrocism. It starts off with sinophobia and descends into astrocism. All right, so why don't we do this? Let me do this. Let me just do a little True Hemp Science. And then I'm actually going to go back in time for a couple of shows. I'm not going to play anything from those shows. But I'm going to go back in time. In last week's show in particular, there were a couple things about last week's show with iShow Speed that I sort of left out that I think are really interesting. And there's been some developments around him that are really bizarre, but also very much related to astrology. So we're going to keep it all in the astrological wheelhouse. Okay. So here we go. Why don't we do this? We'll do a little True Hemp Science and give our guy Chris some love here. And I just happen to have a bottle of Lumina right there. There's your Lumina. And you can get Lumina and a bunch of other elixirs and gummies over at True Hemp Science. Here's some Moonlight. I got some in here. You should take this responsibly. It's amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. And so for you people that have SAD, which is your sunlight deficiency, right? You may want a little vitamin M right here, a little vitamin M to help you through your sad moments up here where we have less sun than we normally do. It'll turn on that inner glow inside of you. All you got to do is go to truehempscience.com. And if you're a first-time buyer, you can sign up for that and get a 20% discount, which is a good discount. And you can type in 15MINS when you check out, and you can get a goodie bag on top of your order. So go to truehempscience.com, do all that stuff, and start your year off with wellness, both mental, emotional, physical, or otherwise. Okay. So why don't we do this? Let me get rid of the banner here and hit the like. Hit the like if you like the show, and if you want to subscribe to this and get notifications, do that, and hit the bell as well, so you know when I'm going live. I'm not going right at 7. You hit the bell. Robert Phoenix going live, right? And there are people who do that. I have those alerts on my phone, and sometimes I'll go over there if I'm not doing something. Let me check this out. It's a really helpful tool. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go back into last week's show. If you are, it looks like it's going to be the Rams. The Bears have the ball on the 50-yard line with 1:45 left. That's an eternity in pro football. They're down to the LA 20. That just took 3 seconds. They're down at the LA 14, 2nd and 4 with 54 seconds. So they're knocking on the door and they are looking to score a touchdown here and send this game into overtime. Okay, I am curious now. They're down to the LA 20. Something happened. I don't know if it was a spot at the ball, but it's 1st and 10. And the clock is back at minute 17. Let me just get back here. Nope. They're at the LA 14. 2nd and 4. 54 seconds left. All right. Let me just do this. And then we're going to go. Let me do Gamecast here. All right. It's 4th and 4 on the LA 14. This is it. If you are a Bears fan, your season comes down to this play right here. Comes down to this play. I don't know what the play is. Shotgun, incomplete, short middle to D Moore. So this is it. Timeout, Los Angeles. So LA has a timeout and they want to get into position. This play, this drive is 36 yards, took him 6 plays to get here. Now, if I can't see it, I'm just looking at this Gamecast thing. But if Caleb Williams, who's a Scorpio, we're going to keep it in the astrological conversation. Will the Scorpio rise to the occasion and will he transform the outcome of the game? Or will he lose this game and have to recollect himself and be resurrected next season with another shot to go all the way to the Super Bowl and gain the Lombardi Cup, get the Lombardi Cup? Let's see what the play is. I can't see it. They have a 15.2% chance of winning this game. So I think they're probably out of the timeout. Let's see what we have here. Let's see the play. Come on. Let's see the play. It's a touchdown. The Bears have tied the game. They've tied the game. Scorpio, he's got ice water, not only on his uniform, but in his veins. Caleb Williams has tied this game up. And we are going to overtime in Chicago. So you Bears fans, you're probably not even watching me. You're probably watching the game. All right. I'll come back to that later. How about that? I have this knack of coming into games when something interesting happens. So let's go back into last week. And let's get into iShow speed. All right. Here, let me do this. Let me do this. So one of the things that's been happening with this guy, iShow Speed, is that he has been confronted by, in his tour of Africa, by doubles. So this has been going on throughout Africa. And this is so fucking Uranus and Gemini. Let me just show this to you. So this is right at the beginning. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, but didn't do a very good job of last week, is that this guy's modus operandi is confrontation. He's always confronting people, right? Like he wants to challenge them to something, whether it's a race, push-ups, that is his thing. And he's got Mars in Aries. And it's like at 2 or 3 degrees Aries. So you can see his calling card in the world. It's this challenge. And the other thing that I wanted to bring out, but I didn't do a good job of it last week, is that this guy was like a caged tiger inside of his house where he'd play video games. I mean, that's what he was. He was just like, you know, he would do all kinds of crazy, weird shit and stream his video games, stream himself while he was playing video games live. And he got a reputation for being belligerent, out of control, obnoxious. And there's this kind of transformation that it's the same kind of transformation that Chauncey Gardner goes through in being there. And all of a sudden he's sort of thrust upon the world stage. And this guy's room or whatever you think of him or whatever you think of like video games, popular culture, the room is like an egg. And he cracks out of this kind of Orphic egg. And then he's thrust on the world stage and he takes on this persona, right? It's really fascinating. And I didn't make the dot connection last week, but I wanted to just follow up this week. That is very Pluto in Aquarius on his sun. I mean, it's literally the transformation of this individual who is completely eternalized, right? Like his world exists in this room and he projects himself to the world through the internet. I mean, this could be like the basis of like a rock opera. I mean, this would, you know, if there were bands that were around that had too much dope and too much time in their hands, they would make a rock opera out of this. This would be a concept album. I'm telling you. It'd be and it gets weirder along the way. Let me show you. So this is the latest. Now, this is in Ethiopia. This is in Ethiopia right here. Let me see if I got the screen share right. Yep, there it is. All right, this is in Ethiopia. Check this out. Let me get rid of that. Make this large screen. So this is him, and he meets his Ethiopian double. Check this out. I'm convinced he's Chris Tucker's illegitimate kid. Look at this. They're wearing the same shirts. They're fucking choking each other. This is some Uranus and Gemini shit. This is totally Aquarian, Uranus and Gemini. But it's not just there. He also does it in Zimbabwe, right? He's got a look-alike in Zimbabwe. Right here.
Speed has a look-alike?
Who the hell is that? What's good, Chet? Yo, Chet! What the f is this? It's people speed! Even his own security got fooled. Really, Rudy? You think he's a real speed?
I was confused for a second.
Speed has a look-alike?
Who the hell is that?
I mean, that's just a weird iteration. Like that's all happening IRL in real time, right? So I did this show last week on him to show you, number one, the transformation of an individual with Pluto and Aquarius on his sun, but how that individual is injected and projected into the mainframe and becomes insanely popular as a result. Yeah, are some of these views or subs bought for? Maybe. I don't know. Somebody brought that up. But it seems to be incredibly viral, especially in Africa. And now these doubles, these doppelgangers are showing up. And that to me is sort of this precursor of Uranus and Gemini and the birth of like clones and robots, and even on a metaphysical level where we wind up meeting ourselves. So I've been going back down the Tartarian rabbit hole, and there's this idea that there was a world that was here, and the inhabitants of that world got wiped out. And there's probably a pretty good chance that those people in that world were much taller than us, right? We get into the talk of giants and stuff like that. And you see these massive buildings with massive doors. It's like they didn't make those buildings for people of average height. So where did the people come from? Where did the new people come from? There's this theory that the new people came out of some kind of either cloning or breeding center. There's this theory that that's what happened. And they had all of these incubators at all of these world's fairs showing all these babies. Like, where the fuck did they get those babies? How did they get there? So there's this idea that we, in these bodies, our past is a lot more strange than you might know. And that we might have descended or been born out of some other process. Not all of us, but maybe some of us. And then, of course, there's the hooking up and the crossbreeding, right? I'm just throwing this out there because it fits into this Uranus and Gemini model. Who are we? Where do we come from? Now, one time somebody brought this up. Let me show you. How many of you have this mole right here on this part of your body? How many of you have that? See that right there? How many people have that? A lot of people have this mole on this part of their body. What the fuck does that mean? Does that mean we're descendants of the mole people? Is that where we come from? Like, I think this is part of my family on my father's side. Like, not on my mother's side, because there's a clear lineage going back to Holland on my mother's side, which I've been able to trace. You know, my ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War. There's a clear record of them doing that. My father's side's a little sketchier, like kind of drifters and adoption. There's like adoption in my father's family going way back. Like, what the fuck? You know, and it being adopted by like a Freemasonic family. I shit you not. Like, I think my great-great-great-grandfather was adopted by a 32nd degree Mason or 33rd degree Mason. He was raised in that family. So, like, who are we? Like, is this true? If you go down that rabbit hole, is that true? Now, whether it's true or not, it's going to come up for discussion. Let me tell you why I'm bringing it up. Besides the fact that we're going to run headfirst into Uranus and Gemini, which is going to really flip this thing into big high strange. There was a time when I was in San Francisco, and I was at this, it's not really a nightclub, it's more of a lounge, and it's connected to this hotel. It's more of a motel, and it's called the Phoenix Inn. And a lot of rock bands would stay in this place if they were playing in the city. It was kind of a cool place, had a pool, had a nice lounge, right? So there's this, like, I guess you call it like a gangway that connects the lounge to the office. It's something that they built so that you didn't have to leave. Like if the weather was bad, you could just walk through this thing and go to the lobby. Or if you wanted to go to the lobby, lounge for the lobby, you could just walk through this thing. And on either side, right, both sides of this, they had mirrors, like these walls of mirrors. And I was with this woman who I just met, and we were there hanging out, and I thought I would just, take her for like this walk, right? Try to be cool. And we walk into this gangway area with these mirrors, and I said, "Welcome to the Hall of Reflection." I was, being silly. And at that moment, a dude, my exact height, same haircut, same facial, looked just like me, walks past me. And I just said, "Welcome to the Hall of Reflection." And that weirded her out. And we just looked at each other. We didn't say anything. And I look back at that moment. I should have said something. Who the fuck are you? What is your background? And so I began to think about it. And I'm like, and there have been people that said, I look like somebody else. Oh, you look just like him. Like, how many me's are there in this world? Like, is there like an assembly line of me's that go back into these adoption, these not adoption, but these incubators? Like, is that? It started to, when I went down that rabbit hole, it started to weird me out, right? Like, Jesus, me. And, some of these people, if they're being incubated, I'm telling you, they don't have souls. They're coming through a different portal, and it's like, well, maybe it shows up in some people and they're NPCs that like they literally don't exist because they've got some weird genetic marker that comes from a different genesis. And it's like, wow, it's a little weird and strange. But this thing with speed and these doppelgangers, very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. And when I see that, it feels like we're living much closer to the machine of the creation. It's what it feels like. It feels like we're just living much closer to it. And we see these things. We see these doppelgangers. We see these, and it's just taking on a life of its own, right? Just like the betting thing gives us a closer glimpse of the dark machine behind the manipulation of consensus reality as it relates to a sporting event. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of go back and talk. Well, I wanted to go back to last week's show. I just wanted to give you an update on that because it's, it's very bizarre, to say the least. I also wanted to go back to another show, and I wanted to talk about. I did a show in Calgary. I'm not going to bring it up, but it's in the script. It's in my. If you look up Calgary in my show feed, you'll find that I went into this is before anybody was really talking about Calgary becoming a state, and I'm like, look at the astrology for Calgary and the United States. It is like a hand in a fucking glove. And the Calgarians are hot on the trail of trying to secede from Canada and being a part of the United States. Now, I don't know if they can legally do that. They're doing everything in their power on the Calgary side to make it happen. And I'll say this, keep your eye on July. July would be a significant time for Calgary in the U.S. So keep your eye on July. And by then, we should know whether or not it's going to fly or not. Based on the astrology, it is a hand-in-glove fit. It's Alberta. Thank you, Mark. Alberta. Thank you, Mark. Calgary's the second city. It's Alberta and Calgary. We had to have a Canuck come in. So it's Alberta and Calgary is the second city. So keep your eye on July. It is a hand and glove fit with the United States. If you want to get on Polymarket and bet and have the over-under be in July, you may want to do it. People fucking rig the Polymarket too. Like there was somebody who placed a bet on Venezuela in the fall of Maduro, and they made out big on Polymarket. Can you say insider trading? I just did. All right, so why don't we do this? Let me go into the horoscopes. I'm going to read you guys my horoscopes, which I cranked out today. So let me find them. And then we'll get into the chart of the moment. A pretty early night tonight. I don't want to stream for hours and hours and hours. Okay. So I used to do this a long time ago. And then I stopped. But I felt like it would be a good thing to do at the beginning of every new sign. So we're going to do this for Aquarius season. And we'll do it for Pisces season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you want to, you can share this around with people. The link is in the show description. So here we go. Horoscopes for Aquarius season. And I didn't edit this. So I'm sure I'm going to want to edit some of it because I wanted to get the press. This isn't your typical Aquarius season. Pluto is the gatekeeper to the portal of the water bearer, and all the inner planets have or are going to pass through the dark Lord guarding the waters of heaven. What does that mean? It means that every planet that impacts our daily lives, our personal directive for living, has to pass through this portal, and that's a total transformation. That's what sets up this Aqua season like no other. Not only does it impact us personally, but on a mundane level, it's an augur of world events that are historical and far-reaching in nature. One such event is the Middle East Board of Peace, which includes Secret Agent 00666, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Marco I'm Everywhere Rubio, AJ Banga, Mark Rowan, Robert Gabriel, and drumroll please, Tony Blair. Yes, that Tony Blair. That's a team that falls into the rubric of Aquarius, and this team is going to decide what happens to Gaza, when, and how. Bibi isn't happy with the arrangement. The short-term effect is a power grab by Trump, which is not inconsistent with the new Pax Romana strategy. Venezuela, Greenland, Gaza. It's all the same. And it's another layer of annexation, which this new version of American exceptionalism is flexing without any regard whatsoever for public opinion. In the long term, if the Gaza peace team is successful in turning Gaza into a canal or beachfront upscale living or combination of both, it draws the conflict of the Israelis and the Palestinians aside from the West Bank to an end, leaving 800,000 people, and there could be more, that was the number that popped in my brain, and where they're going to live out of the discussion for a moment. It removes one of the war fronts from the Israelis and by default takes Bibi out of the role of commander-in-chief for that conflict. This is really important to keep in mind. The reason why Netanyahu continues to wage war, amongst many other, I would say, occult and satanic reasons, is that he does not want to go to jail. And as long as he is in power, he cannot be tried for his crimes of corruption. Whatever they are, right? Can't be tried. So as long as he wages war, whether it's on the Palestinians or the Iranians, he's able to stay out of jail, theoretically. Okay. it brings the first stages to an end to Netanyahu's bloody reign. Remember, I have to edit this a little bit. It's fresh off the presses. His wife is now living full-time in Miami. Will Bibi not be far behind and outside of the long reach of the Knesset from a political immunity in the U.S.? Yes, because Bibi Netanyahu's wife is living full-time in Miami now. Trump pushed back on a full assault on Tehran to cover up the messy ends of a regime change that failed. We're trying a bit from our Aquarian theme here, but we're straying. Should be straying. We're straying a bit from our Aquarian theme, but it's all part of it. Trump is a Gemini sun with the Uranus conjunction, making him Aquarian by default. Trump traffics in chaos. It's his operating system, and the days ahead are pure Trumpian discord at their finest. The Middle East Board of Peace is far from the utopian front they're selling to the masses. Vested interests abound. But it also takes the power out of Netanyahu's hands and in a strange way creates a two-state solution, with many people not having the U.S. as that second state on their end times bingo card. Think about this for a second. The United States, by stepping in and taking control of Gaza, creates on the surface two states operating inside of Israel. There's Israel and there's the United States. And when you have two states, even though those two states might be slightly veiled, what it does is it kind of fucks with prophecy. Because this is what the evangelicals need to have for Jesus to come back. And the whole prophecy thing is just bizarre. It's like, let's get buddy-buddy with the Zionists in Israel, and let's just quote heavy from the Old Testament, screw the New Testament, so that this prophecy, which is connected to the Old Testament, in this idea that, it's an interpretation, by the way, that Jesus will return at the end times in the book of Revelation. And as a result of this, Jesus will give the Jews the chance to repent. And if they don't repent, Jesus is going to say, okay, you had your chance. I'm going to smote you, and I'm going to smote Israel. This is really what this is all about, right? And it's a weird affiliation because the evangelicals, the most of them, are all on board. They want Jesus to come back. But their best buddies, the ones that have given them tons of money and tons of trips to the Holy Land, the ones that have whispered in their ears to talk shit about Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, those people are the same people that their God, as an avenger, will come back and smote. Talk about cognitive dissonance. It doesn't get much more cognitively dissonant than that. But they have to have a single state. They can't have a two-state solution, or else Jesus won't come back. And in a weird way, this is an unofficial two-state solution. The appointment of this dream team is Aquarian, and its roots, and it's disruptive to the current regime in Israel. So the whole idea of creating a team, right? Creating a team is Aquarian, and that's what they're doing. They're creating the Middle East Board of Peace, MEBOP, and it's Aquarian. This is what's going on here. I am in no way condoning it, but see it in its mundane import. Invariably, the greater good will be invoked. And it's a small world after all, would be the theme song of the Ben Gurion estates located on the banks of a newly formed canal. This is what they're going for. The Palestinians might want to brush up on Somali, as it looks like the new home in their future is Somaliland. Let's take a look at Aqua season for all signs. So I'm going to read you your astrology for tonight. And again, I apologize for any typos. Hot off the press. I'm going to go back through here and manicure it. Take Aquarius. We're going to start with Aquarius. Take a good look at your life as it's about to change. Whether it's for better or worse is up to you. While everyone is struggling with chaos and disorder, you'll be like Jeff Bridges in Fearless, watching the plane go down in slow motion while food trays, plastic glasses, and bodies fly across the cabin in a hail of material ejection. Part of you will feel elated that the world is finally turning on your terms. Whether it's a positive or negative manifestation of change, you won't be the only one that weird things happen to, but that in and of itself brings out a sanguine yet bittersweet awareness, because you finally won't feel alone, but it also removes your special outsider status. The alternative isn't to reflexively revert to the other side, because it won't exist any longer. Do your best, Aquarian, friendly neighbor to the party, and welcome the rest of us to your strange, beautiful, and often incomprehensible world. We're the ones you've always been waiting for. Capricorn. Even the best laid plans for the future crumble and fade to dust. All of your mapping, outlining, blueprinting, and building is at risk now. Why? Because you have to let the other kids play with your cherished toys, metaphorically speaking, of course. Have no fear, old goat. What you thought was the only way to bring in that hard-earned cash turns out that there are more possibilities if you share the wealth, which could be directly or indirectly. Also, fear not for charges you might promote or rise just beneath you. They are only a threat if you freeze them out. Stay in your goat zone and uplift those that are new to your team, and you'll get due credit for their success. In other words, take the stick out of your ass and join the human party. You may wind up never wanting to leave, but if you hold on to the way you've been doing things, you'll miss out on a lot. Sag, what an incredible time to be alive. Your brain is about to get flammable after months of darkened inner skies. The fires of the mind are about to burn on the horizon. The biggest challenge you'll be facing is how to turn all these thoughts and ideas into cogent words and language. But like Buckaroo Banzai, who experiences the fourth dimension and cannot speak of its enormity until he's grounded by an electrical current, you'll have to find your own to train your tongue into a glossolalia decoder. So you got to ground. You have to ground your current, Sagittarius. This is just the start to revamping your brain circuits. And the next 3 years, you'll have to discipline yourself to manifest your life's work. This applies to the Great American Novel, concept albums, intentional communities, and the raising of children, your greatest life work. Oh, be on the lookout for new, wacky, weird extended family. They'll help you with creative solutions to your jaded and at times cynical outlook. Scorpio. All you Scorpios in chat, this is what you've been waiting for. Scorpio isn't here just yet. Spring isn't here just yet. But you should be cleaning and clearing out what's between those four walls. Family photos stare at you like ghosts from the past who are chained to a bookshelf in your living room and den. You have a lot to clear out, dear Scorp, but why stop at the litany of phantoms from another life and time? There's clothes you no longer wear, books you're likely to never read again or ever. A garage sale is often associated with warmer days and longer hours. But if you can muster the focus over the next few weeks and start clearing it out when spring comes along, you will be primed for your new start, while others are just wiping the cosmic dust from their eyes. Aqua season is critical to your escape plan, but you have to divest yourself of the past and get Spartan for your next and most timely and efficient move ever. There you go, Scorpio. Libra, you've been a one-woman man or maybe some derivation of that in this brave new world, but that's about to change. A multiplicity of options begin to present themselves. You may not have to act upon any of them, and that might be your greatest test and challenge over Aqua season. It should be who gets moved out of the friend bucket and into the honey bucket, and who gets moved out of the honey bucket and into the friend bucket? Question mark. Not a sign known for embracing change. Libra likes to linger in an agonizing state of imbalance, not being able to commit in any direction. This Aqua season is different. Commit to change and you'll activate your Aries other self. And people will not only be shocked by your direct approach, but relieved that you can no longer flatter yourself by being above the fray. You'll flirt with messy, and that will make you more beloved than your continual pursuit of Venusian perfection. Virgo, in one of the greatest movies of all time, Metropolis, the world is comprised of two separate realities. On the surface, the elites rule as their every need is provided to them by technology. The upper world of Metropolis seems very Tartarian in its architecture and connection to energy. But below the perfect shapes and contours of their idealized society, humans toil beneath the surface, feeding vast engines, coal, and muscle. Below the surface is a living hell of incarcerated beings whose sole purpose is to make life on the surface as easy as possible for the city dwellers. But something happens along the way. One of the elites isn't satisfied with his station in life and travels down into the bowels of the metropolitan hell and leads the workers in a revolt against his father, family, and surface dwellers in what is one of the greatest moments in film, where the witch of technology is summoned by the madness and fear which fuels its ritual transformation. No one is asking you to do that, just that, but you cannot do your everyday dharma as business as usual. Overthrow the scolding and controlling inner boss for more autonomy and personal value. Leo, this is the month where you get to encounter your other. It's always fun and chaotic, but this year it's like those massive wrestling cards from WWE in the late 90s, a battle royal for who's who and their fight for your attention. The more you put limits on the people in your life that you're in relationship with, the more noise and general mayhem you'll invoke. Who you partner with is about to make a major turn. Insanity will set in not long after Aqua season. But the transition into new formulations of partnering will only come about if you entertain the circus of derelicts, rejects, mad women and men, holy fools, and petty tyrants that at times look uncomfortably like you. Instead of playing police chief over the behavior of others, try circus master instead. You'll have a lot more fun if you do. Cancer, all's well on the surface as you do everything in your power to stay balanced. And whatever peace you negotiated with others over the past few months or over the past month, though hard fought by keeping your sensitivity at bay, it's a temporary reprieve as you just can't shake the fact that you've made significant changes. But at what cost? Did you compromise to simply get out of the fire and appease those who are trying to steamroll you? If so, that won't sit right with you, as your gut will turn and your instincts will burn. You can't change the past, but you can change how you respond to the new contracts you negotiated, even if it was in a state of duress. I suggest lots of hot baths with salts and oils. Get back to your briny nature where inspiration flows, and you get in touch with your watery soul, allowing you to stay fluid and not get stuck in the muck of judgment. Gemini, the call of the open road is buzzing through your head. We're not quite at cabin fever mode. That's late Aqua, early Pisces. But we're getting close. And you're the canary in the coal mine. My advice to you is to pack your bags and go where you're wanted. The only thing stopping you is this niggling feeling that you won't come back. And if you do, you won't come back as the same person you were before you left. This should be easy for you, Jen, as you glide across the surface of this world like one of those water skiers. Don't be afraid of the change that's coming, because whether you go or stay or go and come back different, it doesn't matter, since there's always a part of you in the corner jotting down notes, collecting data for your future self. In essence, be a doer and a seer. That is your call. Taurus, there's bulls in China shops and there's bulls in boardrooms, telemeetings on Zoom, in the break room, and the brick and mortar on Main Street. Which variety of bull are you? Once you figure out that you've got a ton of responsibility on your broad shoulders, then whatever setting you're in, you're going to have to initiate change in a way that you might not feel comfortable. You and AI are not always mentioned together, but of any sign, you're the one that will likely gravitate to it more than others. Why? Because this is your realm, your domain, meaning Earth. This is your realm, your domain, and your ability to rule over it like a Brahmin bull gets better and more efficient. But to do so, you're going to have to slay a sacred cow or two in order to use technology to streamline your world, get more done, and make yourself and others even more wealthy. Aries, are you really willing to go to war with everyone and anyone who stands in your way right now? You may have made a major conquest or two in the recent past, but those gains did not go unnoticed. You're the US and those parties are Venezuela. Heavy is the head that wears the conquering crown. Now you must practice a form of diplomacy where everyone feels like they have a seat at the table in your life, and having cordial conversations versus heated blasts of confrontation is better for everyone. You can be as good a tyrant as any sign in the zodiac, but can you play the role of peacemaker and bring divergent groups of people together and give them a voice without losing yours? If you can, those around you will be forever grateful for taking time to listen, something that doesn't always come easy, and not just shutting them down. You may or may not take their well-intentioned to ill-informed advice or suggestions. And in some ways, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you take the time to hear them out. If you don't, you'll be the fall guy, gal, and your recent gains will be squandered by your idea that you can do everything on your own. This is for the next 30 days. Pisces, get ready for your inner life to flip upside down. Heaven is now hell, and hell is now heaven. What in God's name is going on here? For a peaceful and placid sign, you are raging beneath the surface, and you don't know how to control what's coming, because you know when the tidal wave breaks, it will take everything in its path, and the life that you've been living won't be the same anymore. Whether this is a good thing or a bad thing depends on your ability to deal with the tsunami of consequences as a result. Whatever breaks for you in the next 60 days will always be remembered as the winter of 26, where your life irrevocably changed and that you had to take responsibility for all of it. Don't worry, we won't have to send in Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders, but you could use a squadron of angelic jesters getting you to laugh at how long it took for you to get to this place where you orchestrated it all, even if you weren't fully aware of it at the time. So there are the horoscopes for the 12 signs. And I'm going to go back in and clean them up. You got the raw, unedited version, but I was able to edit those for you along the way. And if you just give me like 20 minutes, If you want to pass those on to your friends or your family members who are open to it, you can do that, and you'll pass along a better/best version of my work, something I'd be proud of. So we're going to do this every month now as we get into the new season, right? If we were to do it next week, it'd be too late. Next week would be the 25th, and Aqua season would be upon us already. And it's the fastest season, isn't it? February is a weird month. Jan, Feb, it's a weird month because it's in the winter and it goes slow. It goes really slow. It feels like we're, at the opposite of the dog days, which have its own sort of internal slow clock that goes along with it. Those heavy days where it seems like it's going to be 100 degrees forever in Texas. This is different. This is very, very different. And I think, what is the day where people are the most depressed? I think it's right around here. It's like we're out of the holidays. It's like, the buzz and the cheer of the holidays is over. We're not quite at the saccharine trust of Valentine's Day, right? Like we're not quite there yet. We're not all there, for our chocolate sugar highs with Valentine's Day. So this period of time in January is usually considered one of the most depressing periods. I hope I've given you some inner light and warmth that you can take away from these horoscopes. All right. Let's do a chart of the moment, and then let's boogie out here. Oh, I got to find out what happened to that game. I've been so focused on our show that I need to know what happened to the game. You guys probably already know. Let's see. And that's it. The Rams are going to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. They're probably going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the NFC Championship game. So it's going to be a West Coast affair. Seahawks, Rams, which finished 1-2 in the Western Division. And we've got Texans. I'm sorry. We have Broncos and Patriots. So we have three teams west of the Mississippi. Denver is right in the Rockies, so it's not quite on the other side of the Rockies. But I would consider Denver a Western team for sure. And then we have the New England Patriots. I'm going to go with Patriots-Rams. That's going to be your Super Bowl. Patriots-Rams, because they've been here before. This will be their third meeting. And the Seahawks look like they have no weaknesses. But they are playing the Rams. And the Rams have been known to find their way into the Super Bowl and championships with a little help of the whistle. Now, I will say this about the Seahawks. They may be for a little payback because they played the Pittsburgh Steelers in, of all places, Detroit. And that was the Jerome Bettis Super Bowl. And that was the most thrown Super Bowl I've ever seen in my fucking life. Like, it was completely thrown. It was terrible. Terrible. And people were not attuned to the NFL being rigged. I certainly was. No, we can't talk about that. Because what happens, especially these sports announcers, if they think the NFL is rigged, it's like alien disclosure. Like everything falls apart. All the structure and order that has surrounded these institutions just crumbles to dust. And I could actually see that happening. I could see like competitive sports as we know it. Because everything's got to go through this Aquarian portal, this Pluto and Aquarius. Everything has to go through it. And I could see competitive sports falling to this gambling thing. And then what will happen is that they'll redo competitive sports, and it will be co-ed. That's what I think. It'll be very Aquarian. So football will become flag football, and you'll have mixed teams with male and female players. And they're already doing that. Flag football is going to be an Olympic sport this year, or whenever the Olympics is, in Los Angeles. What is it, 2 years or whatever? I don't know when it is, but it's going to be a sport. I could see that. I could see the NBA becoming a mixed sport where you'll have WNBA style players on the court with NBA players. And there'll be a rule that there will always be at least 2 WNBA players on the floor at a time, right? So you just can't have five guys versus 3 guys and 2 women. If you look at the officiating across all sports is now co-ed. You have female referees and officials in basketball, in football, and in baseball. Of the 3 sports, baseball is the hardest to level the playing field for both quote unquote sexes. And I don't know what they do with baseball. Baseball might retain its own stature, right? But baseball is a kind of a distant third behind football and basketball. So it may not even really matter. Same with hockey. It doesn't really matter. As long as they have the 2 major sports, and the sports, by the way, where there's the most betting integrated, then they've achieved their goal. I could see this. I could easily see it. And I could see gambling as being the thing that brings these sports down. Is it intentional? I don't know. Question mark. I'll tell you, though, if you look at the astrology of the coaches on these 4 teams, of the 4, Sean McVay happens to be the one that is the most poised to take advantage of the current astrology. Sean McVay is an Aquarian. What is Mike Vrabel? Mike Vrabel is a Leo, born August 14th. He's a Leo. Let's see. We know Sean Payton is an Aquarian, and Mike McDonald of the Seahawks. When is he born? Mike McDonald is a Cancer, born June 26th. So we have Cancer versus Aquarius. On the West Coast, I'm going with Aquarius. We have Capricorn versus Leo. In the AFC game, I'm going with Leo. And then we have a good old Aquarius Leo alchemical astrological ritual in Silicon Valley. So there's something I wanted to bring up with the 49ers. And it's very apropos for this kind of Aquarian time and Aquarian theme that we're living in. And I've said that the sports world is allergic to conspiracies. However, there is a conspiracy going on right now that has to do with the 49ers and their practice facility. Let me show this to you guys. And it's very Aquarian. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who are uninitiated, just hang in there with me. It's sports, but you'll learn something. Everything is on the table. All right, I'm going to bring this up. This is from USA Today. So let me bring this up. They say it's nonsense. What is the 49ers injury conspiracy theory, and is it true? A conspiracy theory is floating around the NFL surrounding the San Francisco 49ers, linking their home location, Levi Stadium, to a number of injuries sustained by Niners players. Just next door to Levi Stadium, where the 49ers play their home games, in Santa Clara, is their practice facility, where the 49ers have strapped up for practice since 1988. And neighboring that venue sits an electrical substation. What started as a theory has since gone viral, sparking social media debate about the safety of 49ers players and teams who visit Levi Stadium for away games. Not to mention, Levi Stadium will be the site of Super Bowl, 45? Is that what the 50? It's Super Bowl LX. That's 45, isn't it? I think it's 45. Super Bowl LX. Super Bowl LX is 59. My bad. It's LXI. So this is Super Bowl 60. Super Bowl 60 number. All right, so there we go. This is Super Bowl 60. Interesting number, 60. Let me get back to this this USA Today thing. The theory, and look, it's on February 8th. Okay, so here we have here with this. The theory, which has yet to be scientifically proven true, is that electromagnetic field exposure can cause negative harm to the body. Hello? Have we not been saying this for years? Low frequency electromagnetic fields can degrade collagen, weaken tendons, and cause soft tissue damage at levels regulators call safe. An ex-user, Peter Cowan, posted on Jan 6, which has since amassed 22 million views, 5,900 reposts, 35,000 likes. 49ers injury conspiracy, NFL players react. San Francisco has suffered blows to many key players throughout the season, including Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, and Fred Warner. Many of their injuries were tendon and ligament tears. George Kittle is the most recent victim to injury after suffering a torn right Achilles against the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC wildcard round at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia on January 11th. 49ers wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, a Leo, joked about the viral conspiracy theory, explaining the team's injuries during a Jan 13 scrum with reporters. Yeah, it's that power plant, Bourne said. Nah, I'm just playing. I don't know. It just sucks. But we do do a good job of just working every day. Injuries are part of the game. It's unfortunate, but we have to just hold it down, keep that good energy, and believe in ourselves and believe in the next man up. Although there hasn't been an official injury tied to the EMF plant, players around the league are allegedly taking caution and reaching out to their agents about any possibility that there's truth to conspiracy, according to the Washington Post. Now, if you are a free agent, do you want to go play for the 49ers next to their electrical field? Do you want to play for them? Frank DeVote, a professor of epidemiology and public health at Bristol Medical School in England, is a leading expert on how EMF affects humans. He said in an interview with the Post that the conspiracy theory is nonsense. UC Davis radiology professor Gerald Bushberg, who is also a 49ers fan, told Front Office Sports in an interview that there isn't any established evidence to conclude the conspiracy is accurate. These so-called mechanisms have not been established, Bushberg said. Many of the experiments are contradictory. Many of the experiments have exposure that either don't relate specifically to 50, 60 hertz magnetic fields or at much higher levels than what would be experienced at a practice level. It's a topic that will likely resurface if there are any major injuries during Super Bowl 60 at Levi Stadium on February 8th in Santa Clara. While conspiracy fans maintain their belief that there's truth to their theory, scientists are calling cap. Cap? Well, that's weird. Shouldn't it be crap? I don't get it. Is there something about cap I don't get here? The reason why this is interesting is because we're dealing with waves. We are dealing with EMF waves that, let me see if I can find a picture of the, let's see. Let me do a 49ers. Let me do this again. I'll show you guys the practice facility. I mean, it is right up against this power station. I wouldn't want to practice there. Let me show you the image of it. See if I find a good image. All right, here we go. I'll share this instead. Check this out. So this is Levi Stadium, which is an absolute waste of money. If you're going to build a fucking stadium, make it look good. Make it appealing. It is the most boring fucking stadium. It's kind of like the owner, Jed York. He's boring. He's really, really boring. You're in the heart of Silicon Valley, and you can't make this thing look like SoFi or the Mercedes Stadium in Las Vegas. Jesus, it's boring. Okay. So right here is the Northern Receiving Station. And this is the 49ers training facility. And on the other side is a youth soccer park. Now, honestly, these things in the past were called cancer clusters. That's what they were called. Cancer clusters. That people next to these things would develop cancer. Do I think it's a lot of just sound and fury about nothing? No, I don't. However, I have a different opinion as to what is ailing the 49ers. And this could be part of it. And should I tell you guys what my opinion is? My theory? I may as well. Let me do this. Let me cue it up. This is why I think the 49ers have NFL agents say players are now terrified of Santa Clara. 49ers players are now bringing up the viral electrical. Man. This thing is copping the headlines. But I'm going to show you what I think ails the 49ers. It's this instead. All right. Now, I was following the 49ers when this happened. I knew what was going on. Let me read this to you. Davis, party performer, says he's a satanic priest. San Francisco Civic Sideshow got even stranger yesterday when the performance artist whose S&M act headlined the political birthday party bash revealed himself as a satanic priest. Reverend Stephen Johnson Leba, an ordained priest in the San Francisco-based Church of Satan, had a satanic pentagram carved on his back as part of the entertainment at political consultant Jack Davis's 50th birthday party Saturday night. Davis's evening of debauchery was attended by many of the city's leading politicos and the top brass for the 49ers, the same folks who've hired Davis to convince San Francisco voters that the city needs a new football stadium. Leba, who leads a performance troupe called the United Satanic Apache Front, is upset that amid all the uproar over last weekend's party, no one has explained why he goes on stage to be sodomized with a Jack Daniels bottle by a woman who dresses up like Pocahontas. The act is a literal metaphor for how alcohol was forced to my people, said Leba, who is 1/4 Mescalero Apache. Leba sees himself in the Native American tradition of the trickster, a clown of contrariness who seeks to sabotage complacency. Yesterday, the trick was on Davis and local politicians trying to convince the city voters to approve a June 3rd bond measure to build a new 49ers stadium and shopping mall. No new stadium, said Leba, explaining he's against the measure because he used to get beat up by football players at his high school in Canton, Arkansas. Leba said he was ordained 2 years ago by the notorious Anton LaVey, who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. Assisting Leah in Saturday night's act, playing the part of Pocahontas, was Danielle Willis, a San Francisco performance artist, poet, and author. Leba calls himself his self-styled ritual, the Apache whiskey rite. It includes having a satanic pentagram carved in his back and being urinated upon by other members of his troupe. Yesterday, as several amazed customers look on, Leba sat in a San Francisco coffee house and proudly displayed his satanic scars to a Chronicle reporter and photographer. We were the main part of the show, Leba said, referring to Davis's birthday party. Everyone said the strippers got naked, but they didn't. They were just go-go dancing. And the only other person beside me who was naked was someone called the Diesel Dyke. Leba said his troupe performed the whiskey ritual at the San Francisco Art Institute, at the University of New Mexico, and at a Los Angeles venue. Asked who hired him to perform at Davis's party, Leba replied, "I'm not at liberty to discuss that. My lawyer told me not to discuss that." LaVey, the Church of Satan leader who could not be reached for comment yesterday, and representatives of the Mescalero Apache tribe in New Mexico, said they never heard of Leba or the Apache whiskey rite. Now, let me tell you what happened to the 49ers after this. Their bond measure to create a new stadium where Candlestick Park was, as well as include a shopping mall, which the DeBartolo family was a part of, it passed, but there were so many irregularities around the passing of that bond measure, including, but not exclusively, suitcases of ballots washing up from the Bay with votes in them. Something weird happened with that election. And not long after that election, Eddie DeBartolo, who was the head of the 49ers, comes from a mob family, was down in Louisiana, and he was there to purchase a casino. Now, the way that you got a casino purchased is you basically paid the governor, and the governor was this guy, Edwin Edwards. He was already on trial for corruption. He was working for the feds, and if he could entrap DeBartolo, his sentence would be commuted, softened, whatever. And that's what he did. Edwin Edwards wore a wire And Eddie DeBartolo, who's a Scorpio, right, wind up stinging his own tail in the sting. And as a result of this, the NFL said, you can't have the 49ers anymore. And this guy lived and died with the 49ers. He lived and died with the 49ers. He was intense, maybe too intense. Eddie had to give up control and ownership of the team. And so he gave control and ownership up to his sister and her brother-in-law. Ultimately, his nephew took possession of the team. And the team has run into bad luck after bad luck after bad luck, predating the waves emanating out of the power station. In fact, there were 2 people who actually died in the construction of that sporting venue. 2 people died. By the way, this is not uncommon when sporting venues are created. I've seen cases where, like with Jerry World in Dallas, there was at least 1 person who died. When they were putting together the Winter Park in Vancouver for the Winter Games, there were 2 deaths. One happened on the bobsled run. So the 49ers have been snake bit ever since this thing happened, right? They lost 3 Super Bowls, some NFC championship games. They have all of these things that have happened to them injury-wise. You might say that a curse was put on the San Francisco 49ers. Now, they may need an exorcist more than they need an EMF shield based on this weird thing. I'm just saying. Everything went kind of south for the 49ers after this event. It all started with the stadium measure. So there's something here and it's coming, I guarantee you, like they will discuss this. It will be part of the pregame show during the Super Bowl. And it is an absolutely Aquarian topic and subject matter to be brought to the surface. Look how fucking lame this stadium looks. Are you kidding me? This is the best you could do? It's like a kid with Legos could have thought that up. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculously mundane stadium. Here, should I show it to you guys? Let me show this to you guys. That's what it looks like. Right there. Right there. That's 2025. Just mundane. Yeah, Ricky, this guy, Ricky Pearsall. He was in that photo. He got shot. He was a rookie last year. Plays for the 49ers. Got shot. And he really hasn't been the same player since then. I mean, he's physically okay, but I don't know, man. The guy gets injured all the time. Takes himself out of games. I don't know. High strange. All right, let me get into chart of the moment, and then let's get out of here. But that 49er thing, it's really starting to spook people. Look, I think people need to be aware of it. Is it hurting their ligaments and tendons? Are these waves softening up their soft tissue? Are the 49ers players getting cooked? That's really the question. I think they probably are. That's my sense. It's one of the reasons why I don't have microwaves. You got all these cell phones. So I mean, they're bad. They're bad enough. The cell phones are bad. Smart meters are bad. I mean, we were bathing in just a dirty like a dirty sea of electronic magnetic frequencies. Okay, let's do this. Where are we? January 18th. And I'm convinced that AFib is a part of all this. Because the heart is an electrical unit. I think that's one of the issues that we have with AFib. Heart represents Leo, by the way, which is the opposite of Aquarius. Waves that kill, waves that damage. Frequencies that are harmful to the mind, body, and spirit. Okay. Here we go. Let me pull this off the screen. Let's spend about maybe 10 or 15 minutes just talking about those. And then we'll bring the train into the station here. Okay. Thank you for all 216 of you that are still here. No, that's not it. Hold on. Oh. I've got the Zoom protocols. I forget we are in the StreamYard protocols. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's us right now. We're in the 5th house. We're having fun. We're Virgo rising. We're talking about health issues, things that are harmful to the body. And there's your new moon right there. New moon on Monday, getting ready to pass through Pluto. Venus getting ready to pass through Pluto. Sun getting ready to pass through Pluto. Mercury, Mars, and then ultimately Juno to follow. All right, so we're here. We're talking about kooky Aquarian stuff. We're talking about Aquarian infused horoscopes. And by the way, you could read your sun sign or your rising sign for those horoscopes. FYI. So it's a new moon on Monday. New moon on Monday. Q Duran Duran. I think it's a great moon. It's wacky, unusual. You know, it's The Office. I think of The Office as being kind of this very Aquarian setting. I talked about it last week with Michael Scott, aka Steve Carell, the sun at the center of this, wacky Aquarian setting. So that's sort of the flavor of the day tomorrow. It's lighthearted, it's eccentric, it's goofy, it's weird, but also with the Pluto conjunction, at least at the onset of the day, in the proximity to Pluto, people do have their limits. They do have their limits. Things can be very chummy and ha, and a lot of fun and goofing around and nobody taking anything seriously until somebody's feelings get hurt. And it's like, oh shit, we've gone a step too far here. And that's where we get into the square with Chiron and all of these Capricorn planets. And it's like, oh, you couldn't take the joke? Oh, gee, I'm sorry. Everybody else is taking the joke. Right? So just be aware of that. Because tomorrow's goofy and eccentric, but sometimes words sting and hurt, and they stick around a long time, a very long time. We're getting. I'm just looking at this chart now for the first time, so we're getting a preview as to what is to come with the moon in Aquarius passing through Pluto and being on the other side of it. We're getting a bit of a glimpse into the future. So pay attention to the news cycle tomorrow. And we're in this very weird place now where there's like a lot of justification going on. I'll give you an example. Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is now, Stephen Miller was pretty quiet during Trump's first 4 years. And now it's like Stephen Miller Unleashed. And his wife has this podcast. Have you seen their podcast? And they go on their podcast and they basically talk shit. Right. And his wife's podcast apparently is very popular. And it's popular with sort of neo-nationalists. And make no mistake, Stephen Miller is a Zionist. He is a hardcore Zionist. So this is where we get into Stephen Miller territory. And he said this. He said, if a country cannot defend its land, then it should be challenged and should ultimately abdicate its ownership, relationship, title, and deed to that country. And he's basically inferring, hey, if Denmark can't protect Greenland, then it has no business defending or having any kind of ownership over Denmark. And what's happening with NATO now is Trump is doing a reverse of NATO, right? It's like if Trump gets out of NATO or the US gets out of NATO, NATO's in trouble. And they know that because Russia is knocking on their door. And Russia may not have wanted to steamroll Europe when this whole Ukraine thing began, but I can tell you right now, that game has changed. They would love to steamroll Europe now because Europe has been a thorn in their side as it relates to Ukraine and everything they're getting from places like England and France, Germany. They've got boots on the ground there. This is a NATO fucking operation already. It's a NATO operation already. It's just like, sort of like what happened with, the Bosnia conflict and the Balkans. The Balkans it was NATO-based conflict. NATO was in there with their troops taking shit over, right? NATO did not want, and the West did not want the Russian oligarchs to go into these Balkan states and take them over. So they fought against that. It's like, no, we want to get in there. That's what that was all about. So we're seeing this again. Anyway, what we're getting here, right, with this moon going through Pluto is this is what Stephen Miller said. This idea that the United States can just go in and take on Venezuela or take on Greenland or take on a foreign country like Minneapolis, that they can do that. This is the right. This is the right of the realm, whether it's the Monroe Doctrine, whether it's manifest destiny, whatever it is, this is the kind of going to be the new norm. And I believe that we're going to see a hardcore version of that within the next 24 hours. Whether it's posturing or language, it is coming, right? And this moon-Pluto conjunction and the moon on the other side gives us a glimpse into the new borders of the world. This is not going to be living in Kansas anymore, right? So we're in a very interesting time. And what we know about this current regime is that they're relentless with their pressure now. And they need to be relentless because they don't want to have to deal with the Epstein stuff. They just don't. So the Epstein stuff is forcing the Trump administration to make significant moves. There's also the dollar thing going on, right? And the battle between the currencies with BRICS and with Russia, like that's all in the background as well. We take on Venezuela, we take on Greenland, we bring them into the fold, and then guess what? We have the resources now at our disposal to prop up the dollar. Don't think that's not part of what's going on here. They are in a desperate attempt to get as much mileage out of the dollar as they possibly can. And if they go to a currency change, they want it on their terms and not on the terms of any other institution. Don't think that they're holding out for the paper dollar, just for the good old American people, right? This is everything that we hold secure, right? With this moon in Aquarius, and it's brand new and it's coming through Pluto, is all up for grabs. And because it's in Aquarius, we could look at it from a dispassionate sense. It's like, oh, isn't that interesting? Well, yeah, whatever it is, it's like, well, this is fake and this isn't real, and this isn't fake and this isn't real. And that's the nature, right, of looking at, this kind of interesting version of a sacred matrix. Because there are things that are sacred. We this whole idea that we're nihilistic, right, and nothing matters, and everybody is just popping black pills like they're Tic Tacs. That's a false version of the world. These two things, that the world is a simulation and sacred, do not have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, it's the sacred part of the world that wants our attention, to bring us through the matrix, right? To bring us to the other side where, we understand like the totality of our thoughts and our feelings and our actions, that they have immediate import on our lives, individually and with others. Thoughts do have feelings. Thoughts do manifest in the world. And what we're going to get a glimpse of when we move into the Aquarian sphere is how quickly that manifests. And that there is a self-governing system where people will say, well, I don't want this to be manifest in my own life, so I want to think and experience the highest and best for myself and others. See, this is where the system begins to self-police. And people are like, oh, geez, if I don't live, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be a doormat, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be a doormat and you're just going to let people run over you. It's not what that means. It means that there are certain things that, and this is what I'm working with in my life. We all have to use our own lives as the crucible. So I am working in my own life on letting go of grudges and minor resentments. These are the things that plague me, because the Virgo and Scorpio in me can see it and go, well, that person doesn't really know what the fuck they're talking about. And let me show them. Let me tell them that they've only got a small part of the picture. And it's a part of the picture that they're resonating with because this is their bias and this is their culture. And if you really want to get into the truth, baby, you got to rip the bandage off. And there's a part of me that is like that. And I have had to sit on that. I've had to sit on it because I don't want to lose friends, right? I just don't. I don't want to lose more subscribers. It doesn't mean I will pander to the masses and simply regurgitate what passes for YouTube entertainment, astrological insight, cultural ruminations. I just can't do it. I will do what I do, and the chips will fall as they may. That said, I also have to recognize that I cannot sweat the small stuff. And part of this is also connected to my heart, right? Like, not long after this heart thing happened, I got into a beef on Twitter and I felt like my heart was going to burst through my fucking chest. It's like, I can't have that. I can't have that. My body is telling me, no, that is not your beef. That is not your beef, Robert. So this is what I mean by we can still work on ourselves. It doesn't mean we sacrifice truth with an ultimate T. But for me, and this is just me, I have to gauge it. Gauge it. Do I want to bring out a howitzer all the fucking time? The answer to that is no. No, I don't. Is there a time to bring out the howitzer? Yes, there is. I have to know when that time is. I have to be aware, this is the time to bring out the howitzer now. This is not the time to bring out the howitzer. Because if I did that, I would alienate the fuck out of everybody. And it would be me and a group of you who have your own version of the howitzer. And eventually we'd howitz ourselves. That's what would happen. So this is what I'm dealing with. This is the true node in Pisces going through my chart. And my south node is in Pisces. So I'm learning how to let water find its own level, right? Everybody's got a version of this that they're working on now. And it doesn't mean that everything is just okay. And in some ways, everything is just okay. In some ways, everything is perfect. And that all we're dealing with is our own script around imperfection. And I can co-sign on that line. There's something there to that, right? It's like you can't really change anybody. That's one of the greatest illusions that we have, especially in relationship. I can change that person. I can change that person. No problem. Just give them to me for about 6 months and, they'll be a vegan. I guarantee you, I get that person for 6 months of my life and I give them great smoothies and, fresh raw foods. And boy, they'll be a vegan. No, maybe. Or that person doesn't like dogs. I'm going to turn that person into a dog lover, whatever it is. Right. And you may have a superficial effect for a while, but at the end of the day, a person's a person. And there are much more serious pieces around being a person. Some people are who the way they are. And you can either accept them at that level, or you can renegotiate the relationship, whatever the relationship is. Sometimes it can be an intimate relationship, a business relationship, a member of your family, a friend, somebody who's a casual acquaintance, whatever it is. They're going to be who they're going to be unless they go through something profound and it changes them at a deep level. And you're like, well, why the fuck weren't you like that when I was around? Well, it wasn't on your dance card at the time. It just wasn't. And sometimes people will change and you may be the beneficiary of that change. I speak openly about my son and maybe he's watching tonight, right? And if he is, I'm going to give him some props here because his view of the universe and life is expanding and he's kind of seen behind the veil. And there is a period where we may not have agreed on certain things. And we're agreeing on more things than we disagree with now. And I didn't have anything to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't try to change him. I didn't say, oh, you got to look at this. You got to look at this. You got to look at this. No. The things that he's coming to awareness with are happening in his own time and in his own accord. I didn't do anything. Now, he may share some genes with me, and maybe he's got those switches in his genes, which make him more predisposed to having these kinds of takes on reality. or to see the world through a particular lens. But it's nothing that I went out and did. So just remember that. Stay close to the people that you do love and you want them to see the world in a way where there aren't as many bars on the cage, and that the sacred cows and the institutions that we can never question come under the scrutiny of why and what and who and for how much, right? That's what we, I think, want for people that we're close to, just to have the scales fall from their eyes to a degree where we may be able to have a reasonable conversation. And not for any other, maybe to say, guess what, you were right. Maybe that could be very healing. And maybe it's more healing for them than for you to hear that you were right. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that. And I don't take any great pleasure in it. But you have your own version of that story. And all these planets in Capricorn are trining Uranus right now. And this is the best version of that story, right? This is where we're at the precipice of, I think, real immense cultural change. Like the rules of engagement. But by the time Juno finally transits across Pluto, which I think is what, May or June, like we're on the other side of this procession. And it all started with Vesta and it ends with Juno, the oldest of the asteroids and the youngest of the asteroids, right? From Alpha to Omega. But in typical astrological fashion, we're working backwards. So the energy for this is, it's on. It's on. And take what you can from this time, right? Because Capricorn is all about, to me, Capricorn is the most sovereign of the signs. Because Capricorn takes responsibility for the kind of world that they want to inhabit. Build a city, no problem. I'll take care of it. I'll build it. I'm a Capricorn. I'll do that. Start a business, no problem. I'm a Capricorn. I'll deal with that. That's what they do. Ultimate accountability. It's the ultimate accountable sign. And we may not always like how they go about doing it. May not always like the things that they focus on. But you got to give Capricorn respect. It is a sign that sets out to do something and gets it done. And to me, that is the mark of sovereignty. Even if you have to deal with other forces and other agencies along the way, Capricorn can negotiate that without losing its sense of purpose, direction, and self. So this is a very interesting week. Super, super, super interesting. I keep waiting for the housing stuff to kick in. And I think, I don't know, maybe it'll be connected with this Mars. I mean, Trump has already come in and said that he wants to make sure that, it's not even BlackRock, it's like Blackstone, that they can't buy these houses. He's trying to come up with some scheme to fire up the housing market, but I don't know if he can do that. The only way they can do that is by lowering interest rates, and I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. So I don't think the housing market's ever. I don't think anything about the economy is going to bounce back. Anything. You might get a market rush because the market is what's keeping the economy afloat, and it's like a dead cat bounce. The market is on steroids and algorithms, but the market is something completely synthetic. I'll tell you my recent touchstone with reality and the economy on the front lines. I went to a place here in Kerrville on Friday night for a burger. And the reason I like this place is because they have good meat, they have a gluten-free bun, and they're cool people. It's a local business. I went there. I paid $23.50 for a gluten-free hamburger with fries and an iced tea. I didn't even have a fancy beer. I had an iced tea. $23.50 for a burger. And I thought to myself, we are in fucking deep trouble here. Deep trouble. When you got to pay $23.50 for a good, not fast food hamburger, we're in trouble. Sure, you can go to Whataburger, get the same burger for about $8. Maybe not the same burger, but a burger, right? The other thing on the front lines of being an inflation consumer is shrinkage. Shrinkage. You know, I popped open a protein bar from Costco. It's like a quarter of the size that it used to be. And what they'll do is, oh, by the way, that burger was smaller than burgers I've had at that place in the past. Burgers I've had at that place in the past, I've barely been able to contain on the bun. This one, easy. Easy. Costco, protein bar, quarter less, same price. So in some cases, you'll get shrinkage and you'll get an inflationary price. And in other cases, you'll get a small inflationary price increase and you will get shrinkage. They're going to get you either way. In some ways, they get you both. And when was the last time retailers said, yeah, we're going to pull the prices back? Once the prices go up, they don't fucking go back. You know, it just becomes, I remember paying 5 and 10 cents for candy. 5 and 10 cents. And then it was a quarter. Then it was 50 cents. I don't eat candy anymore. Then it's 50 cents. Oh, you want to buy a candy bar? That's $1. I was buying that shit for 10 cents when I was a kid. And the 5-cent version was just a smaller version. And then there was penny candy. You get candy for a penny. Literally a fucking penny. That's not there anymore. I just don't see how the time that we're in is going to revert to a time where there was real money based on real goods and real exchange. Everything is going to be hyperinflationary from this point forward. And the only way that they'll make any kind of a dent with this is by resetting the currency. That's it. That's it. And we know that that reset is going to be digital. When that comes, we might get a glimpse of it here over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Keep your eye on the lookout for how the financial game is going to change. Pluto represents resources, other people's resources, loans, interest rates. You know what I've noticed recently? I've never noticed this before because I watch a fair amount of TV. There are more commercials for life insurance than I've ever seen on TV. What is going on with that? Why is life insurance being pushed now? It's like car insurance, sure. Bundle and save, sure. What happened? Am I not on? Am I not on? I guess I should ramp it down, bring it down. Anyway, you get the drift. We're headed towards a brave new world. And that brave new world, we're on the precipice of it right now. And these changes we'll be able to live through. Don't worry, right? Don't worry. But you're going to see things in the weeks and the months to come that are going to give you a glimpse and an insight into a very new paradigm. And you're a part of it. And that is sort of the matrix version of that paradigm. The non-matrix version of that paradigm is what you bring to the table. And in that world, you will be responsible for your thoughts, feelings, actions, all of it. All of it. And the reason why is because you know that it will reverberate and affect and impact everybody else. So you're only going to want for yourself. You're only going to want for others what you want for yourself. So we'll self-govern. We'll self-regulate. But to self-regulate will be an upgrade, not a downgrade. And the whole idea is that we're going to uplift one another with the highest and best we can bring to the table. And if we can't, we alter our angle of relating. It's as simple as that. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks for putting up with me rushing to the press to get everything done. We'll be back on Tuesday with the Astro weather. In the meantime, if you want to get a reading, you go ahead and do that. The link is there inside of the show notes. And I'm still working off the last wave of readings that the special has brought to people. So I'm still getting in touch with people. I'm working backwards. There's a lot of you. So hang in there. I will get to you. And if you haven't got to me, you can reach me at the number that's listed in the show notes. It is my digital/virtual answering service. All right. Take good care. Love each and every one of you, even though I haven't met you, because I've felt your love come to me over the last week or two. Thank you so much for that. And it's really Aquarian. I'm telling you, we're practicing. We're working on it. I'm your guinea pig. Thanks for all of that. And we'll see you on Tuesday. God bless. Bye for now.